Welcome to another episode on the Sales Armory. Today, I am sitting with a good friend of mine who I've actually known for quite some time, Anjanette. She goes by Ms.SouthBay and is a top 3% realtor. How long have you been in the top 3%, or let's even just say top 5% of all realtors in San Diego?
Okay, the last 4 years.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What are 2 or 3 other bragging points that I'm missing that you'd like to share?
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me on, Brandon. And some other things is I have closed over 60 million in real estate transactions, all from my branding. So no paid lead generation. It's all authentic and self-generated.
That's amazing. Awesome. And you had an opportunity to speak on a panel. Can you talk about that a little bit? I think that's a cool achievement.
Yeah, so every year San Diego has a real estate panel for women in real estate here in San Diego. So I was on panel last year in 2024. I've also done a mentorship program at Realty of America. So helping a lot of the agents at our brokerage, a lot of emphasis on scripting and role play when it comes to sales.
That's awesome. And one more, just because I want to highlight your accomplishments. I want you to be able to brag as well.
Yeah, so I just flew to Chicago back in March to be on the Real Estate America show. And it was really just talking about my story, how I got into real estate, and sharing how I have created a $60 million business.
That's amazing. Let's wind the clock back though a little bit. What were the early days like? Like, give us some context for maybe someone in their early or mid 20s who wants to get into sales or is just getting into a new industry or the job market. How did you get your start?
So the early days when starting in real estate is hard because nobody really knows you, right? You don't have evidence of success. Even your family and friends aren't going to trust you to sell their house, right? So it's really the hardest part is getting a business off the ground. So for me, it was a lot of having to pay my dues and doing a lot of the hard work that nobody really wants to do and a lot of sacrifice. A lot of people think, oh, social media, doing videos all the time is going to get me the business, the cold calls, the door knocking. But really, the magic happens in your sales career when you are learning and training the role play, the scripts, the objection handling. And I did that for an entire year, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I would role play and script practice my objections. And that's what really built that skill set. So when I went to do my open houses every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I was able to overcome objections and close more transactions.
That's amazing. So I was just in Miami actually last week. This week, I guess, or this week. I was training 2 new sales reps, and one, this is her first sales job. She just graduated from college, and we just did her first role play ever.
Oh, wow.
And she was like internally freaking out a little bit. She's like, "This is so awkward."
Yes. Yeah.
Do you remember like the very first time that you were practicing doing scripts? Like, do you remember any of the emotion or the feelings that came up?
Yeah. So I was very grateful to have found a really good mentor. Number one, get a good mentor because you need somebody that knows what the scripts are to also help you come up with new objections. And in the beginning, it's hard because you're reading a script, you're feeling like a robot, and nobody really wants to feel robotic when they're on the phones or in front of people. But for me, it's really about overcoming that and just continuing to put myself out there every time I script practice to where you internalize it and then it becomes a part of your personality and you just have to remember what those questions are to get a client from, warm introduction, build a rapport to a closing.
That's such a good point. Let's go back even a little further though. How did you get into real estate? How did you know that you wanted to be in sales? Like, let's keep going backwards before we go forward.
So right after college, I didn't really want to do for the rest of my life. So I decided I wanted to go to university to be able to figure it out. And my major at the time was impacted. So I had to push off going to university another year. And then I was impacted again. So at that time, I took it as a redirection into something else. That's when I was getting into a position where I was an assistant to a real estate agent and to 2 real estate attorneys. And I felt like if that never happened, I would have never gotten into real estate. And it just happened to work out that way. And I truly believe that rejection was my redirection into what I really needed to put my efforts in, which was going to be my career.
I think that's such an amazing point. There are so many challenges and obstacles right now with our higher education system. And I think there are a lot of young people who are realizing that maybe that traditional route isn't the best for them, especially not as it seems like the call it the corporate promise is kind of breaking. So I think that's such a good point. And you've clearly it's worked out for you.
Don't get me wrong. Like if somebody wants to go to university to become a doctor,
Mhm.
that is worth
Mhm.
getting into debt for.
Sure.
But for me, I feel like I kind of figured it out in a sense where I don't have any student debt.
Mhm.
I don't have any loans that I have to pay off. Instead, I just kind of got my license and went into sales. And I have been making as much as a doctor would make in a
Mhm.
sense and without the debt. So it really is, where are your talents, where are your gifts, and where should you really be focusing your energy on, and taking your mind, oh, I have to be, this engineer or whatever it is that maybe your parents want you to be. Really tune in to see what is going to make me happy. What am I actually good at? And where can I see the success for my talents and gifts?
Did you always know that you wanted to be in something sales related, or was that a learned skill? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so while I was waiting to see if I was going to get into this university, I was experimenting on different jobs. I worked at almost every retail store at my local mall. One in particular was Nordstrom Rack, and
Okay.
I was in customer service, and everybody at that store spoke Spanish. And just FYI, my Spanish is not that great. My first language is English. So you could imagine I'm trying to sell and pitch debit cards, credit cards for Nordstrom in Spanish, which is not my best language. And I just started catching on to it right away. And
Mhm.
before you know it, I became the top sales rep in the entire department store. And I just I flowed. I really knew in that moment, all sales is connecting with people. And as long as you can build that connection and gain their trust, you will be able to be successful.
So you were at Nordstrom. Also, shout out Nordstrom, by the way. You were at the rack pitching credit cards. Did you go straight from Nordstrom to working for the real estate agent and the attorneys? Was there something in between? What did that progression look like?
Yeah, so there was something in between. I worked at a bank as a teller,
Okay.
and I was going to get into banking. I knew sales was my thing.
Mhm.
So becoming a banker was also very attractive to me. I ended up becoming the customer service proponent at my bank.
Nice.
So as you can see, there's a trend, right? I'm
Mhm.
very customer service oriented, giving the client the best experience. And at Nordstrom Rack, we didn't call it customer service. We call it customer experience,
Mhm.
because when you leave people feeling good about their experience with you, they're going to come back and they're going to want to continue to either shop at that store or see your face again. And that's really what sales is all about.
I agree. And this is actually a great transition point because I've seen so many of your post stories and closed deals where you sold a house to someone years and years ago, and then they were ready to either step up or purchase an investment property and wanted to use you again. So how do you create that customer experience? What do you do?
There are a lot of things that go into it. First and foremost, I want to say that just being transparent and authentic is everything. People can sense when you feel like you have their best interest at heart and when you don't.
Real estate is a commission driven business. So as a real estate agent, if you don't sell homes, you don't put food on the table,
Yeah.
quite frankly. And so there's always this balance of having what's best for you as the realtor and the real estate agent who needs to put food on the table and what's best for your clients. How do you balance that?
So for me, I kind of take away the idea that I have to make the sale. I really just focus 100% on the client and what their needs are. And at the same time, in real estate, it's a long-term business. People don't sell and buy houses every day, right? It could be 2 years, a 5 year, 10 years. So really my mindset around it has to be different. How am I best giving value to my clients to where they're going to use me when they do need to buy or sell, or if they have somebody, a friend or family in mind? It's long term. It's not about just closing a transaction. It's about just being there consistently and helping them through every step of the way.
Real estate transactions can get tricky. And for anyone who doesn't know my story, that's how I got my start in sales and do have some personal experience with it. How do you manage client expectations through the transaction process? Are there things that you're doing, just any tips or tricks that you have to level set those expectations?
Yes, I do. Actually, that's a very good one because there are a lot of things that can come up. So, first and foremost, you have to have an initial buyer's consultations or seller's consultations to go over your expectations, right? For example, when you're showing a client a house, I send out an email before the showing start to let them know don't talk about the house when you're inside of the house because there's cameras and you never know. So let's just wait till we're outside to talk about the house. Those little things that are typically you kind of pass are important to set expectations for.
Almost inevitably, at some point, something is going to come up, a
Mhm.
challenge, an obstacle. How do you navigate the emotions of yourself as the realtor and of your client making this huge purchase? Like, how are you managing that?
Almost in every transaction, there's always going to be some small hiccup,
Mhm.
right? In real estate, there's so many moving parts. You have escrow, title, the lending, just all aspects of it. You have a buyer and a seller. So there's so many things that can happen. So really setting the expectations like, look, no matter what happens, I'm always going to be there for you through everything. You can count on me that we'll be able to make it out through whatever challenge that comes up. So I think when you communicate that with your client early on, that things can come up, it's expected, but you're there with them, that is a game changer. And it does show that you have experience, you've gone through these issues. And typically when there is something that comes up, I'm very hands-on. I'm on it right away. I'm very communicative with my clients and all the parties involved. And I think that just reassures my clients overall.
I think it's such an important point. When I think of new salespeople, and I even think of myself when I was getting my start, you never want to talk about what could go wrong because you're
Right.
scared to bring that up. And even when something does go wrong, you might not want to address it because it's awkward or maybe it's challenging and there's so many like emotions that come up. But I do think, to your point, it's important to just tackle it head on. Talk to me about referrals in your business. Do referrals make up a big portion of your business today? How do you generate referrals? Let's start there.
Yeah, so referrals are a large part of my business, not just with clients, but with realtors as well, surprisingly. I'm very big on social media and, helping if you're able to have a realtor refer you a client and you take very good care of them and you nurture that real estate relationship, you can also get referrals. And with clients, I would say when you do leave a lasting impression on how the experience went when they bought a home, they're going to want to refer you to all of their friends and family. So for me, I do have like giveaways that I do for my clients and also making sure that you're rewarding when you do get a referral. Sending a box of crumble cookies goes a long way when they receive a little gift and it enforces that to happen again.
In terms of ease of transactions, if you're getting a referral, have you found that is an easier transaction, an easier client? Is it 50-50? How do you feel?
Oh, yes,
How do you feel about that?
100%. Because you don't have to really sell yourself because your past client already sold yourself
Mhm.
for you, right? And it makes it so much easier. They already trust you. Actually, a client that I'm working with right now, she and her family were a referral, and it's just been so smooth. They have been allowing me to guide them, easily coachable, and so far it's been going really great.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
In my industry, we'll get referrals too, and it's always the easiest
Yes,
process because much to what you said, they're basically pre-sold.
they're pre-sold.
At that point, you're just facilitating. So
Exactly.
real estate, though, is a much longer sales cycle
It
than what
is. It
I'm used
is.
to, at least what I'm used to today. Talk to me about the mindset that's needed
Yes,
to.
I love this. I love this. I have a tip for this.
Oh, perfect. So I guess the question is just talk to me about the mindset needed both for the transactions and a long career in real estate, and wherever you want to start, we'll start there.
So real estate works in 90-day cycles.
Hmm.
So that's about 3 months. So your mindset as a real estate agent should be the work that I'm putting in today, the results may not show up until 3 months from now. And living in a world where we want instant gratification, you're not going to get that. So you have to have that patience. You have to have that grit to keep going, even though you're not seeing results. But for me, I like to think about it as I am planting seeds in a garden. And as long as I'm watering it, giving it tons of sunlight, I'm bound to have a flourishing garden.
What do you tap into when maybe the business isn't going well, a transaction is stalling, anytime where you personally have to like dig in, where does that come from for you?
So for me, I welcome like challenges and things that happen. That nothing is perfect in business, especially. You're going to have ups and downs, but I welcome the challenges because for me, I see it as okay, this did not work. I'm going to learn from this. This is actually making me a better real estate agent. Now I know how to handle this issue better. Now I know when this issue comes up, I'm going to go about it this way. So I always pivot and use every experience to just better me and make me better.
Now I work with a lot of Gen Z demographic. The two trainees that I was working with earlier this week, they're 21 and 23. One of them just graduated from college 6 weeks ago. This is her first sales job, really her first professional job. And for myself, I'm thinking, how do I try and impart the mindset of perseverance, of grit? Like, how can I help them on their journey? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so it can get very challenging during the downtime. I think the most important thing that you have to be optimistic. Because if you're easily going to allow things get to you, it's going to be very difficult to make it in this business. And for me, I'm naturally a very optimistic person, and I see challenges as and lessons as my breakthroughs.
Mhm.
Because I know if I continue going through so much hardship, I'm getting closer to that next win. So that's how I see it. That's my mindset around it.
Where does that come from though?
I
Because
know, where does that come from?
not everyone has that, and I have not been able to pinpoint where the characteristic trait comes from, where when everything seems like it's going wrong, you almost have to have this like, yeah, mentality. Like things can only go south for so long before it turns around,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to hang on and push through. Where does that come from though, at least for you?
So grit really comes from the inner work that you're doing within yourself. So for me, I have to work out like 4 times a week minimum. I have to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing my meditations. I'm in my sauna. I have a powerful routine that I do every day to where it really allows me to focus on the things that I can control and to let go of things I can't control. And having that mindset is so crucial for business.
To an extent, I'm also the same way. And when you're not on routine, you almost feel off if you miss a workout or something like that. So that resonates for sure.
I feel like sales is very spiritual in a sense to where when my energy is on point, I'm doing amazing, I'm performing great. And when my energy is not so is more on a down, it's almost harder for me to get into more how
Flow
do I
state
say? Into a flow state. Exactly.
makes sense. People don't just wake up with a 4 day a
Mhm.
week workout routine, sauna. You don't know that that's what you need immediately. So what was your start to finish? How did you develop your routine?
For me, it's just really gaining a lot of clarity on who I saw myself as. It does take discipline. It takes a lot of discipline to push yourself. And really, I just think about who do I want to show up as and how can I start building those habits that make me that person that I want to be. And really, I think it's just acting as if, like even if you don't feel it, if you just start doing the things, you're going to start feeling the power, basically. It's kind of not fake it till you make it, but face it till you make it.
Ooh, that's good. I like that. Face it till you make it. There's absolute truth to what you're saying, and I think once you've been through the trenches for so long, you know both what you need and you know the effort that's going to be required. And I do think it makes it easier to overcome any of those challenges once you have
Mhm.
that experience, but
Yes.
building that experience is what takes time.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm very big with mantras.
Mm.
So, like every morning when I wake up, I tell myself, today's going to be an amazing day. Today, I woke up in the highest version of myself. And when I start telling myself these things and I start doing the inner work, doing the workouts and eating good is important as well, I just start creating a very positive mindset. And that's something that anybody can really do. It's just, being disciplined about it is the hard part.
I do think some of the most successful, especially salespeople, but some of the most successful people have that optimistic mindset. So how do you stay optimistic, especially with everything that's going on right now?
So I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I have a couple amazing women in sales that I also listen to that I also admire. So having somebody that you're either listening to is very powerful because their mindset shifts can also impact your own mindset shifts.
Makes sense. Are there a couple podcasts that you would recommend to
Yes.
someone who's maybe not already on that train, other than the Sales Armory, of course?
One of my favorites right now is Claim Your Power by Kim Pretz. And she has created a huge podcast for women all about inner work, mindset, and just kind of looking at your challenges and your breakdowns as breakthroughs, looking at your rejections as redirection. And it's all of these mindset shifts, how to show up as the best version of yourself, how to create the dream life, how to manifest. And I love listening to things like that.
That's awesome. Is there a mindset shift that you had to address from, I guess, internally with yourself, where you're like, maybe you had an experience or you had a mentality that you were able to recognize this no longer serves me and had to recalibrate?
Holy moly. Wow. Sorry. Yes, I did. I think the number one thing is who's in your inner circle is going to impact you so much. So realizing who's really meant to be in your world and who is going to either help you grow, or sometimes you have to cut people in order to continue to grow.
There's a popular quote or a mantra that you
Five
are the
people.
average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
powerful, that right there.
even when you talk about being optimistic, you know, if you're surrounding yourself with positive messaging from podcasts or from mentors that might not know you, that still counts. And I do think that as we grow, as we mature, especially individuals who want to see themselves succeed either in their career or in business, at some point might have to audit the circle that they're surrounding themselves with to determine whether or not that still serves them.
Yes, because you have to really protect your energy, especially when you're in sales. You're dealing with so much rejection, you're dealing with a lot of hard things that come up. So when you're in your downtime, who you're spending that time with is so valuable because that's where you recharge. So having to make difficult decisions to either let people go is a very big sacrifice that you're going to have to make if you want to be ultimately the best version of yourself.
I want to talk about some tips for either new salespeople or new realtors. You had talked about a big one, and I'm hoping that we can start here. You talked about spending your first, I think it was year or so, working scripts and talk tracks and role playing. Can we start there with the importance of that? Why is that important?
The reason why role play is so important is because think about it. If you're a new agent, you're setting up for your first open house and a potential seller walks in and starts asking you questions about selling and you get so excited. Finally, I have a potential client. Sometimes you shoot yourself in the foot by just getting too excited. That energy, they feel it and you could ultimately push them away. Or they may have an objection that you're not able to handle. So you're going to lose that client. So instead of practicing on real prospects, it's so much more powerful when you're practicing with other real estate agents and you're practicing those objections. So when you are in front of that potential seller, you're going to crush it and you're going to be able to get them as a client.
I couldn't agree more. And I tell my team, you want to practice so hard that when game day comes, you can go out and have fun.
Exactly. And that's how I like to think about it. Like, this is just your training. It's your practice for game day when you're out on the field this Saturday.
Absolutely. And the second one, this is what I tell myself all the time, is we're not practicing to get it right. We're practicing so we can't get it wrong.
I
And
love that. Wow. Yeah. That is very good.
if someone were coming to you and they have maybe 6 months and they're like, this is a industry or a profession that I want to pursue, what would you tell them?
First and foremost, don't focus on how much commission you're going to be getting right away when you join a brokerage. Instead, find a team. Why a team? Because you want to learn from the other realtors around you, and you need a good mentor or team lead that is going to help make it easier for you to kind of ease into it, and have someone that's also keeping you accountable. Because doing it on your own right away, you're going to get lost. You don't need to reinvent the color wheel if somebody already has it ready for you to just kind of jump in. And then once after a year, you start building those transactions under your belt, then you can think about, okay, where can I go to maybe make a better, higher percentage, or ask your team for a higher percentage. You just grow like that. But you have to be a little bit humble in the beginning and willing to not get paid as much, just as if there's a team that offers a lot of support, learning, maybe a role play class, scripting, things like that, then I would definitely start there.
How do you balance that in your own mind with this mantra that I see and I hear all the time, and it's know your worth, don't work for anything less than you're owed, and if they're not going to pay you, then it's not worth your time. Like, how do you balance that? What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely agree with that, but you have to build that skill set first. In the beginning, you're going to have to sacrifice making your entire commission in order to learn. Just like, somebody that goes to school to become a doctor or an attorney, you have to think about giving away part of your commission as an investment into becoming a great real estate agent. In a career where 87% of realtors fail their first 2 years, it is so important that you get that training and build that skill set in order to be successful if you really want to make this a career.
I agree. That's how I got my start. Did you start on a team?
I did. Yes, I had an amazing mentor. It was actually Dean Aguilar. Shout out to Dean Aguilar. When almost 8 years ago, when he had about 7 or 8 agents, I had one-on-one training, role play training from him every morning, 9 to 10 a.m. And now he's built one of the biggest successful teams in San Diego with all these agents, partners with Zillow. So I had such an amazing opportunity to learn from one of the best in the real estate industry in San Diego.
From a tips and tricks standpoint, is there anything else that you would want to impart to either new salespeople, maybe someone who's new in their career, think that early 20s individual, or maybe even yourself at this point 10 years ago? What would you tell her?
I would tell her to not listen to the outside chatter, because when you're pursuing something that society deems as, oh, that's really hard, why don't you do something safe? Like, why don't you get a 9 to 5? You're going to hear a lot of that. However, you have to stay really grounded in why you're doing what it is that you're doing. And you have to distract yourself from all of that noise and just focus on what your goal is and what your mission is. And that's the only way you're really going to be able to make it, because there's going to be a lot of noise. Yeah, like when I did start and getting started, my family was against me going into real estate, especially my father. And now my dad is very proud of me. And he was like, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You're so amazing. And he passes out my business card to every neighbor in his neighborhood. But, sometimes it does take that negativity to kind of push you to just prove them wrong that, you know what, I can do it. And you have to have that.
And what's amazing is at least you got that from him too,
Yeah.
that humbleness to say, you know what, I was wrong. You're absolutely right. And I'm glad that you did it. And I'm sorry that I didn't support from the outset. But I do think it's fair. Like, the people around you, they want you to be safe.
Yes.
They have your best interests in mind or at heart. So it doesn't come from a mal place. But that's amazing. Where can people learn more about you?
Definitely visit my Instagram, Ms.SouthBay, Ms.SouthBay, to connect with me. And yeah, I would just love to help any of you that are starting off. I'm an open book. I am very approachable. So if you ever have any questions, I would love to help where I can.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for taking the time. This has been amazing, by the way. If you're not already following the channel, like and subscribe this video. You can find us on the Sales Armory on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.